Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am now calling the March
Yes.
March 2019 Village of Austin Board of Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing to order. I ask that you please turn off your cell phones. For those in the audience, please do not engage in activities that may distract the board or the applicants or their respective representatives. Please do not engage in large or extended conversations during the proceedings. Any conversations by audience members should be conducted outside the hearing room. At the end of the applicant's presentation, the public will be given an opportunity to speak on relevant issues of that application. And as you all know, because it's been close to a year that we've been doing this, we open a public hearing, we close for each application, we close the public hearing, and we make our decision at that time. We have 3 members of the board here right now. We're hoping that we have all 5 members at one point, but should you choose, if we come to a decision, if we're going to come to a decision tonight, you may choose not to have that decision done this evening because of the fact that we have 3 members of the board.
It would require unanimity.
Yes. Okay. So, let us begin. ZBA 0218 49 Spring Street. Yes. Please state your name and address, and do you promise to tell the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do. Javier Hernandez, architect for the project. We haven't, there's no new material. The last time we just had to make some modifications to the floor plan to make sure that no additional variants were required. So we changed the layout to make sure it complies with the square footage set by the code.
For each apartment?
Yeah. So that was the only change that we had made for a while. There was some question and correspondence back and forth, so I don't know if there's any more questions.
I thought there was some building size about the applicant.
Well, there was an issue with regard to the buffer that we had talked about.
Right.
Yes.
I believe the revised plans,
We said there was no revised plan.
well,
No, revised plans like many
Oh,
submissions.
so maybe you should go over the revised plan, since
Sure.
you've been giving revised plans to the planning board, we get that part. Maybe you should review it for the...
Sure, no problem. So the changes that we have made to the plans is that originally the setback was almost touching the aqueduct. It was 0 clearance from the aqueduct. So since then we have revised the plans where we provide an 8-foot setback. So we allocated an extra 8 foot of space that the building does not utilize. And also we made changes to, like I said before, to the square footage of the spaces, so all apartments comply with the code. I believe we have, where we need a habitable space 600 square feet or 700, we have those. Also with the planning board, we've been working with the planning board and we have made changes to the exterior where we have indentations in the facade, and we have put privacy windows there. We have windows to bring light, but there's privacy glass, so there is no issues with being too close to the adjacent building. And also, as request from the planning board, we have provided a montage of where we show the adjacent building, which is 47. They have the 2 buildings kind of go together.
Okay, and about your other variances?
The additional we had, when we first started the process, we were asking for 30 parking spaces. Then eventually we reduced it to 24. We are down now to 20 parking spaces that are required. 6.5 for the retail store, and 14.5.
13.
13.5 for,
Hard to park in the house.
this, the breakdown of the parking is because we need a 1.5 parking for 2 bedrooms, which we have 3, so that's 4.5, and we have 9 one-bedrooms, which is 9 parking spaces. That brings us to 13.5.
So you have 0 parking spaces, and you
Right.
want a variance for all your parking spaces?
Yes. Also, we pointed out before, and we can point out again, there's tag parking available, and there's public parking available for the evening. And this lot is adjacent to the bus stop, and the whole front of the lot is striped for safety. So in order, there's no parking spaces even for the public there, because the bus, that's where the bus stops. So and even if we try to put parking spaces, we will be gaining like 3 parking spaces, 4 actually, due to the size of the lot.
Is there overnight on-street parking on Spring Street there? Can you leave your car on the street?
No,
Not- There,
the meters.
there are 2, there are 2 parking lots.
There are 2 parking lots that are already tagged parking lots,
Yes.
that are quite full.
And the evening too?
Mhm.
Every night.
So I think you're bigger, well, I think you have 2 issues here. 1, the aqueduct variance, and 2, the parking issue. Do you want to tackle one at a time?
Yeah, we can deal with the buffer issue. I think there may be other folks who want to talk, but we can, however you want to.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
public hearing.
so let's let people, is that all you have, the presentation you have to make? No one else making a presentation from the, okay. No, yeah.
Just if you're asking on the meeting, my name is Robert Corky, I'm the attorney for the applicant. I've submitted to the board all of the materials that I have that are relevant to this. I don't know if you'd like me to go through that
No.
in general. If not, I'll just leave it as it is submitted. Thank you.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this 49 Spring Street application? Yes, ma'am. Please come up, give your name and your address, where you're from, and you promise to tell the truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Charlotte Fawn, F-A-H-N. I live at 155 Edgar's Lane in Hastings-on-Hudson. And
Hastings-on-Hudson?
yes, and I'm here representing, I'm a board member of the Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct, and I'm representing the Friends on this project, together with Sarah Kelsey, who spoke to you on October 9th last year. So for us, the preeminent fact here is that the applicant bought the parcel in question when the law requiring 25-foot setback from the aqueduct was already in place. And the village building inspector denied the permit on both grounds of the parking violation of the parking provisions and of the aqueduct setback provisions. The applicant then, in our view, took the calculated risk to apply for variances on both those requirements, and built an erroneous case based on misinterpretations. We addressed that in our October 4th letter to you, and so I won't repeat those now. The detour around the block from Maple Place to Waller Avenue was that. It's just a detour, although obviously a long-lasting one, that we believe was put in at the request of the Ossining Police Department. But the very good news is that conditions have improved, whatever conditions led the police to want that detour. And they've decided it was no longer necessary, and agreed that the gates could be taken down. They have been taken down. The space was open. There was a dumpster which is gone, and some trimming and mowing was done, and it's a attractive block now to walk through. It is the main aqueduct corridor, and and right underneath is the water conduit. So this seems like terrific news to us, and that everyone is welcome. And it begs the question of why now permit a new 4-story wall to go up, essentially abutting, or virtually abutting the aqueduct corridor, when you can have a green path right through the heart, or not through the heart of town, but in the heart of town. We get feedback all the time from people who visit the aqueduct that one thing they like about it so much is that it's a path that not only is in open space sometimes, but crosses the main streets of a whole string of Rivertown villages, and that's very appealing to people. My second point is that the requirement in the zoning code on both sides of the aqueduct reflects the comprehensive plan of the village. And therefore, since that plan was put in after a community-wide planning process, presumably represents a certain agreement that it's part of the goals of at least some constituents in the village to have the aqueduct protected. Rather than say more, I'd like to read the last sentence of a message from one of our supporters that came through on Facebook today. It was addressed to the chairwoman, but I'm not sure if anyone here has seen it yet.
Well, that would be hearsay, ma'am, but I guess if you want to say it, we'd have to treat it as hearsay. You're not the person who's speaking about it, right?
Right. Well, I wanted to read, excuse me, her sentence that she said. Is that not permitted? I can skip it.
Well, if they want to hear it, they can, but I don't think I could consider it because you could be reading
Okay,
from
it's just-
anything. I
it's-
really don't know.
I can
Would
skip
be
it.
here?
It's just a succinct way of saying that the goals of the comprehensive plan are embedded, are reflected in the community-wide planning process, and therefore, in our view, should not be set aside. And then my final point is that, well, it was the aqueduct and Sing Sing prison that led to Ossining being one of only 11 communities in New York State to be selected to be one of the urban cultural parks in the late 1980s. And that's because both historic features were seen as having potential to draw visitors here. That program, well, the name has been changed from urban cultural parks to heritage areas. That program is an economic and tourism development program, still in effect. And heritage tourism is growing. The Path Through History program, the Hudson River Valley Ramble is an annual event that has grown from 1 weekend a year to 4 weekends a year. So those kinds of programs are booming, and the aqueduct is a National Historic Landmark with a big story to tell and fits right in. And so in our view, it makes strong economic sense to protect the block of green path right in the heart of town. In closing, I'll just say if you have not seen the aqueduct exhibit in the community center, that's the museum part for the heritage area, or haven't seen it recently, I would urge you to go. It's an excellent exhibit. It's in pristine condition, and there is a video you can ask to be seen, to see with it. It was produced by the Hudson River Museum. It gives the historical background, and that visit is very worthwhile. And if you haven't ever taken one of our weir tours to go down into the aqueduct, I would urge you to do that. I hope you will, because nobody who has done it has ever been disappointed by it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you have a copy of your notes, ma'am? Do you have a copy of your notes?
Oh,
Did you leave it with the clerk?
written on them.
Thank you.
So it may change.
I don't think she talked loud enough for the video. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on the 49 Spring Street? I think we need to discuss the parking issue.
Correct.
I apologize.
Just to recap on the parking issue. When we started this project, I just wanted to, bring up a couple points, which is, it is one of the few empty empty lots in the downtown. The downtown area, all these developments, it is within the code that allocates, there's language for the parking. Unfortunately for new building, because there is not many new buildings in the area.
Where's the language in the code for a new
There is
building?
not for new, I'm saying there is a waiver, so that's why new usually with parking. We will be continuing the facade in Spring Street. We only have, we have mostly one bedroom apartment, so we foresee this being used most by professionals, and it's close to the train station. Again, the last time we logged, there was ability of parking. We only have 13.5 parking spaces utilized for the apartments, which there will be in the evening. Again, we have 250, within 250 feet, we have 2 parking lots available in the evening.
But you made no effort whatsoever to supply parking for this particular project.
We have no way of supplying parking.
Well, yes, you do. You could redesign your building.
No,
The
we
first
didn't.
level could be underground
Right.
parking.
If we-
You could have all your apartments above.
If
That
we do
might be a
that,
possibility. You lose
we-
retail. Or
Right.
one retail, maybe.
right, but there's also the proximity to the bus stop, and that's, a new curb cut in the area will not be,
You're not allowed a
Feasible.
curb cut there?
if you look at, I don't know if you can see the picture, the front of the area is all striped right now, it's not even used for parking, the front of the lot. Because
That's a lot
the-
of parking spaces though in downtown. I have to say, there might be some parking that I see sometimes at night in the lot near where the post office is, not necessarily 20 spaces.
But that's why I'm pointing out that we don't need 20 parking spaces in the evening, because most of there are 6.5 of those parking spaces for retail. So we don't foresee,
So if you had made an effort to come up with some parking, okay, some parking, we have not had anyone come before us that actually supplied 0 parking. Right?
we don't have any parking in there.
One of the issues that comes up with the parking is the proximity to the bus stop. It's a two-way street, Spring Street. You'd be pulling out in front of a bus stop. It's marked now for no parking, striped. So we would be putting a curb cut in front of a bus stop, pulling out in front of a bus stop. I don't think it's a very safe thing to do. I don't know if we get
Well,
past any
that
time.
was one option that the.
But that's to go on site.
Right.
So if we were to go on site and put 2-3 spaces, we would lose whatever spaces were available on the street by way of the curb cut.
But-
So it's.
But, okay,
Can I say something?
yes,
Sure.
I have a problem with that last statement, because you're telling us that it's already striped and there is no
Yes.
parking
Yeah.
there.
You're right.
So you can't use that as, I'm losing
No,
space.
you can see there.
no, she's
Yeah, I'm
saying
just-
they can't
it-
go there.
If it were to be determined that you could use that space, it's already, it's striped off.
Right.
I'm going to assume that means that should it be used, again, I didn't strike it, so I'm not going to say, but that because of safety, that's a very busy bus stop, and you would have people pulling out of a parking space onto a single street that's possibly blocked by a bus. It just doesn't make any sense if they're
Okay,
parking there.
so that was an option that someone gave you, that was an option. You didn't come to this zoning board with any other possible scenarios as others have, of renting parking lots, not public parking lots, not tagged parking lots, not village parking lots, renting parking for your tenants. Or suggest something as crazy as putting up a small garage, working with the village and putting up a small garage somewhere. I'm just saying, it's the other extreme. But you came back with nothing except you want to park in village-owned parking spots. You want to park in village-owned parking spots, okay? With offering no parking for this building.
I mean, an option would be to purchase parking passes or parking stickers for every unit annually. We could do that. We could buy 20 parking
You don't-
tickets.
No.
It's not going to add to the parking availability, we could buy 20 more tickets. If there were a spot, it'd be a good idea. I don't know of any vacant lots available for parking lots in the downtown area. I don't know.
Isn't there a church right across? Does the church have a parking lot down that road?
No.
Where you could, no
That church
parking
does
there?
not.
No
That
parking
particular
there
church
either.
does
That particular church does not.
Wow.
Good evening, my name is Pedro Silva, I'm on the property. Only the thing that happens in the building next door, the one I built 5 years ago, 8 years ago.
Well, it was an existing building, Gabriel.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, okay. I just want, because you said you built it, I just want to make it clear that it wasn't.
Well, I rebuilt them or
You
whatever
did,
it
and you
is.
did a great job.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you're welcome.
So only the thing that can be done, and that's how the way I see others doing, and I did there in this building also, to check how many parkings available in village parking to get tax. So if this is the idea, I can buy the tax right now, tomorrow, the next day, and holding some parkings for my tenants. If this is available, I can do pictures with the empty during the night with the date and the hour. That's what I did for this building in 45 Spring Street. And back then, the board realized you got a lot of empty parks and you can't really spare for the tenants. Other way, in the village of Ossining downtown, I don't see any other parks available beside what you got it already with the 600 tax made by the village. If I'm not wrong, the quantity,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, very much. So if you still get an empty tax available in the village, and the parking surround that building going to be done, it means like the post office and the other one by the pharmacy or across the street from this building. So if you still get it during the night and I can provide that information, probably that's a solution. I'm just asking.
Who owns the property next door to you there?
That's a bus stop.
That's a bus stop.
So
It's
they
an
own the
enormous
property
bus stop.
behind it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's
oh.
the aqueduct.
That's
That's
the
the infamous
aqueduct.
aqueduct.
No, the green right here
Yes.
beside
It's
his
the-
fence.
Yes,
So
that's the bus stop, and then behind that is the aqueduct.
That whole green?
Yeah, the-
It's an enormous bus stop. It's like 4 different bus lines.
Oh, I
It's-
see.
It's almost like a depot.
If the grassy area behind the bus stop were available, we'd be happy to purchase
I
it.
wondered.
Yes. but
Yeah.
I'm not sure, it's not, I think that may be county property, I'm not positive, but,
Oh, you might ask there.
yeah, I think on the map, but,
So I think you have to, I think you really have to address the parking issue, because it's not like you came in and said, well, we know that they gave out 450 parking permits and they have 600, so. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many what there are in parking permits, but,
I actually just had a email today, we have 412 parking spaces in the municipal lots.
in the municipal lots, and how
And
many
we have,
tags?
we have, I'd have to do more math for that, that's in my total, and there are about 200 meter spaces.
But meter, you can't park overnight.
Right, I'm just, those are some of the totals of parking that we have, and that's not even that also includes down by the river.
Oh, that includes down by the river?
No, it doesn't, right?
Yeah, my numbers do.
Oh, okay.
That's just, that's the total number, not the total number that's available. That's the total.
That's the total number.
So I think some more homework has to be done on the parking and coming up with some possible, if you want to come back with some possible creative ideas as to how to handle the parking. But just to assume that the people will park in the parking lot across the street is not a good answer.
What do you mean?
You can't just assume that your tenants will have parking spots over there, because those parking lots do have cars in there at night already.
Would it be acceptable if we were to make inquiry with the village parking to see if there were tags available? And if there were tags
You can make- you
available
can-
to purchase them?
Bob, I suggest you contact the clerk's office, because
Right.
they're the ones
It's
who
the
actually
clerk's
issue it.
office.
And
Okay.
they could probably give you a
Well,
breakdown.
Yeah, okay.
Our question is, this is a solution?
Possibly, you have to come back, I mean. you
Yeah.
could
No,
ask
no,
to
no, I'm not
continue-
saying they have
you
to
could
come
ask
back. I'm just
continue
saying-
this. Yeah.
You know, I just say, I understand it's a work you have to be done, but I don't wanna be ping pong ball, you know?
I have one
Come up
other.
with
I
other
have
thing,
ano-
come up with other-
I have
no.
another question though.
No, no,
How
no.
come the building is, it goes that way in the back instead of just squaring it off so that you were given a little bit more of a buffer between the aqueduct? You tried to get as big as you can. I mean, you couldn't even have a driveway here where you could possibly park some cars behind if you
You
squared
can't-
off your building.
No, we
maybe.
tried to, we had the building square off, and that's where we were, in order to get all the apartment and the right size apartment. And that's when we moved the parallel to the aqueduct. and
You
the
can't make
parking
some studio apartments or anything? What are you making, one bedroom? What are
lot.
they?
Yes, one bedroom. It's
One
9
bedroom? What about some studios and square it off?
I think then,
And that's only usually one person, less cars.
Well, other thing I like to give with that kind of approach, and I can provide information about the 12 family next door, one bedroom apartment. I got probably average, 5 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, an entire building. It's one person living there and walk to the train. So
Yeah.
really not driving people, it's no cars out there. And I can provide that information as signed by my tenants, how many cars they carry.
I think we're back to the aqueduct question though, too. Why
Yeah.
can't you square off
If
the
you
building?
squared it
Have
off a
some
little,
studios.
asking for
Then-
less of a variance instead of 17 feet, maybe square it off and you're asking for a few feet.
because then the feasibility of the project is,
Oh, you won't make any money
that's, it's,
with,
If I reduce the size of the building, it's, you know, it's good to downscale and a profit. And it's not really worth for me to do anything.
well, it's bigger than the one next door that you rehabbed, right?
No,
no.
Same
Square
size?
footage, square footage.
square footage is the same thing.
Same size? Wait a minute, put them side by side, is that it? Where you had the other one?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, his frontage is longer on the new one,
Yeah.
so that makes up square footage.
No, but see what she's talking about, cutting the,
I understand.
yeah.
But I
The
think
one on the
that-
right's gotta be bigger.
You still,
But I think
cut
the
straight
8 foot,
across, you're gonna
I
be
mean-
maybe 10 feet from the,
Hmm?
instead of 8 feet,
I don't think
What's the difference between
still 15.
10 feet, less 10 feet? I mean, it don't make any much difference than
those, that apartment you see there, that you want,
Let's see,
already
where's that
600,
apart? What are you
that is
doing?
already
Let me-
600 square feet, I think.
What's the square footage on a studio? Job.
Jim, what's the square
What's
footage?
the minimum on a studio, square footage?
I think it's, they said maybe like 450, and then 600, and it's habitable space, garage center, not
Right.
a lot of livable.
This property, for me, the way I see, let's say if I do just the first floor as a commercial, I need still 6 parks, so it's not worth for anything as a investment purpose, or you still need parking, so it's still needed. So might as well,
But it's easier to do commercial space, to talk about commercial space parking, which is someone coming in, shopping, or like the laundromat next door, or something like that.
yeah, this is great
It's a
if you
lot,
need,
it's a lot different than when you have residents, and to assume that your residents will not have cars is a little far-fetched.
I appreciate
Not
that.
not only that, residents will invite people, we'll
Yeah.
invite other people, people will come drive by, and they'll have cars, so it's not just
yeah,
residents that should.
I agree with you 100%. But if this is Bronxville, Tuckahoe, I agree with you 100%. I got to tell you, you know what? No, ask for an apartment. I got to do just commercial. And I'm happy with that. But Asning, I'm the one that clean up Asning downtown. one of them, not everything, but I try to clean up Asning. I try to do the best I can in Asning, and that's what I'm trying to do. But there's no profit in there to collect $15 a square foot to pay taxes and to pay all the investment I do. So that's, you have to increase something, you have to compromise something in order to survive in Asning. And I did the first investment 22 years ago, 125 Main Street, and then 123, 125, 127, 500, 49, 45 Spring Street, now 49. What do you think downtown you got to get clean and people walk and they're safe in there? Because of somebody like me. You did something good for the town, for the village.
So you can't have 6 studio apartments instead of 6 one-bedrooms, big difference, huh?
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
I said 6 studios in the back area, if you squared it off, wouldn't give you enough money compared to a one-bedroom?
You have to go all the way up, put an elevator, you have to do all that.
Elevator.
The cost of the square footage to build in Bronxville is the same as an Asning, only the returns is half of it. So that's the hard part.
You know, one of the issues about squaring off, I mean, I don't want to go back to this aqueduct issue. The aqueduct behind the property is 34 feet wide. 34 feet, that's a fairly good trail. It's grassy. The issue about the gate, Ms. Donnelly probably recall, we submitted pictures back in April last year. It was after those pictures were submitted and the gate shown and the rip in the gate that it was removed. Because we're interested in keeping it a safe, habitable spot. No matter what the setback is, it's not usable to the public, it's private land. There'll be a fence there.
We could make you put trees. I
You
mean, we
could-
could make you put big
Yes,
tall
but if
fir
you
trees.
look at the property between Waller and Maple, there's no one else that has anything there. And some of the properties actually go on to the aqueduct there. So we're not asking for anything that's not already there. So moving it further back, all it does is detract from the viability of the project. And to develop this, you know, in any development, it has to be economically viable. And to be economically viable, you need a certain number of units to cover the cost of the development per se. And that's why we've done it. We've been accommodated, moving everything back and redesigning to make it viable. It's difficult, these are difficult spots, they're not prime retail commercial spots, you all know that
All right,
downtown.
so,
So we have to make it up by having residential on top. So you're not dealing with some, national chain going in there paying prime dollars for those spaces. We can, and I will make an effort to check with the clerk to find out what, if any, spaces or tags are available. If they are available, and if it pleases the board, we'll purchase them as a condition of the variance we're asking. And it'll just be part of what we do. But, we can't create space. We're good, but not that good. We wish there were.
There are a lot of other properties along that strip there, right, that butt up to the aqueduct?
Yes.
Pre-existing?
Yes. And the issue of this trail or whatever, I've submitted so much information, I don't want to be redundant. Once you get past it, you go across Waller, you're in the backyard of the firehouse, that's where the aqueduct is, then it's on Spring Street, and then it's gone. It's through the park.
So-
So,
all
if
right.
you stand on, and I've walked this thing so many times now in the last year, if you stand behind that property and look west to the river, what you see is Spring Street and the buildings. It's not the Adirondacks. It's a urban area, and we're not looking to change it. What you will see is a clean building when you're walking there with that space, it's 34, and that's 42, 34, 35, 34, it's 42 feet before any building. That's a fairly, if you took the 25 feet on either side and added to 34, you'd have an 85-foot trail. That's wider than Spring Street. I think it may be as wide as Main Street. I mean, I don't think that's what anyone's intent. It's obviously not gonna happen, because it already exists differently.
I think the big concern is the parking.
All right, we will go back and we'll do our homework.
Do your homework on the parking. We're not going to guarantee you that just by buying tags, because that sets a very bad example. But we have to come up with some creative solutions for the parking. I would strongly suggest you go and put your thinking caps on and see what you can do about that.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I lost my agenda. Okay, ZBA 0119, 34 State Street is adjourned. Okay, it's adjourned because they're before the planning board doing their new secret. ZBA 0219, 41 Cedar Lane. 41 Cedar Lane here tonight? Oh, they're not gonna be here?
They're not gonna be here tonight, they're resubmitting for a use variance.
Okay.
I actually haven't connected with their attorney, I have a phone call into them.
Madam Chair, let me just bring it up to date. If you recall, this was the property.
The red house.
Which was in foreclosure.
Right.
And I did have our water department provide me with documentation regarding water usage and water bills. Since 2013, there's been no water usage in that building. Since 2016, because that's when the billing I went back, the bills have been $25 per quarter. That is the meter charge. So while one cannot say that no one was living there, there has been no water usage in that building, and the meters were just changed out. Ms. Tracy Corbett and I had a discussion. We think the best thing for the applicant is to come back and ask for a use variance to allow them to, utilize the house as they want to use it. I think they
As a two-family,
right?
What?
As a two-family.
As a two-family, that would be correct. As I said, the information from the finance and water department would certainly go toward the direction that it has been empty. And I should point out that 2013 was when the first foreclosure action was filed. 2016 was the second action, which is the one that resulted, in fact, in the sale of the house, ultimately to the doctor. So hopefully they'll come
And as
back.
we know, use variances are very difficult to
Correct.
come by, but this might be an example of what is the proper use of a use variance.
Correct.
In this particular scenario.
So we expect that they'll be
But
coming back to the
We'll see what
board
they
with that.
bring back next month.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, new business of the board, ZBA 2217, 25 North Malcolm Street, Victoria Home. My friends at Victoria Home.
Hi.
Hi,
How's everybody doing tonight?
good, how are you guys
Good.
doing?
Just fine. I'll go first, I guess.
Okay.
James Bianco,
Promise to
representing.
tell the truth?
I do. Fred Turillo, CFO, he promises also.
I
do. So we're in front of you today to request an extension, hopefully,
When would it expire?
I think
In
the end of this
April-
month?
In April.
In April.
Okay. Last one, I think, is October 9th, so they get 6 months.
So if you're familiar with the
Close?
project, we've been.
No, we're very familiar with it, we're not our new member, but we are.
Right, so we're very close to having our HUD application for financing
Great.
submitted, and we hope to have this completed within the next month or so, where we have our application in, and I think 6 months would be sufficient for us to do that role.
Okay, is anybody here to speak on the Victoria Home? Application for a extension of their variances. Still the same, right? Still the same as the
Yeah,
last?
yes, no changes.
No changes from
at
the
all.
last changes,
Right,
right?
no.
Okay, great. Okay, not hearing anything, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So move.
Have a second? All in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the extension of their variances? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great,
folks.
thank you. Have a good Thank you, evening. guys. Thank you. Take care.
What kind of extension? 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
It's there, it's a senior citizen home, they're trying to see. It's been a long haul. CBA 0619 USA Marketing Group, 20 Broad Avenue. Oh, that was.
That's all.
We're done?
Approval of minutes.
What happened with the 20 Broad?
Oh. So, Mr. Kahane, you
I'll be
want to
happy to.
explain?
That matter was taken off of tonight's agenda.
That's why it wasn't out there.
The reason it was taken off was that documents were submitted to show that it was a legally non-conforming 10-unit apartment building as of the time that it was purchased by the current owner.
Yes.
And so therefore, there was no need for him to come for an interpretation to this board, because it is in fact legally non-conforming as a 10-unit building.
I went by there today, there were 10 mailboxes, so I know the.
Does that mean there's something pending?
No, at this point, there's nothing more pending.
Everything.
Before the zoning board, there's nothing more pending.
It's legal the way it is.
It's legal in terms of being a 10. In terms of building code violations or anything like that,
No,
that's the
forget
building
about it.
department, but in terms of being a 10 unit, that's what it is.
Well,
Unless they turn it into a zoo.
Let us know.
So,
Yes, let us know.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for being so patient.
I have
So-
one question. I'm
Sure.
sorry, it had nothing to do with what you're doing tonight. But I live next door to another two-family house. And they have a small driveway, and they're putting 5 or 6 cars in that driveway, on top of each other.
So tomorrow, why don't you put a call into the building department?
Mhm.
This is Joe, he's the building inspector. Raise your hand, Joe. And they'd be happy to help you.
Because I don't know what the rules are, but they're all over my little property.
Okay.
Please
Thank you.
call.
Good night.
Good night,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the minutes and the resolutions from the February 19th, 2019 meeting.
I
Did
make
they-
a motion, we adopt them,
Oh,
and you probably have to abstain, right? What-
no, I was
No, you
here.
were here.
I just
I'm
had a
sorry, I
question. I
stand
made
corrected.
corrections, I just didn't receive them. Did they make the
Jamie,
corrections?
yeah,
that I-
correct.
My corrections?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would make a motion with corrections
Yeah.
that we adopt the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting tonight. See you next month. We'll see you in April for our April zoning board of appeals.
April 9th.
April 9th. Thank you very much. Have a great week.
April 9th.
Month. Have a great month.
That's a Thursday.